Okay, we're playing a 1609. Good luck. So we've not played before. We have no head-to-head score there. 1100 games for my opponent, so played a lot more rap than I have, but not many in Blitz, just 59 games. Okay, let's take a risk and play Sicilian this one, just for variety's sake. It's purely for variety. I only play the Sicilian now again. I'm not a Sicilian player, so I don't know too much theory in it. But just a little bit of variety. I tend to play the E6 Sicilian. It's a bit less theory in it than the more standard D6. Oh, we've also got knight up as well. Yeah, but E6 just to charge this diagonal straight away. It gives us a chance to potentially push. Okay, so the idea will be to drop back there. I'm going to play knight up first, see if he comes forward, and then I've always got knight across if needed. And I'd be very happy if my opponent traded, but knight up here is probably a little bit more precise first, just to challenge the pawn push, but I'd say I'm just playing a little bit of variety this game, not what I normally play. So if it goes wrong, it goes wrong. What to do, what to do. Right, I'm going to push on now and challenge that bishop. F3 is a very bold move, but it might allow an idea like a queen check at some point. Okay, here I'm going to be very happy to try and trade a bishop and develop the other knight. Now if he pushes on, we can take. If he takes, we can take back. So I think I can just grab a pawn here. If he takes, we've got knight takes. If he takes here, we can develop our bishop. So he's come forward, very, very aggressive, very bold. So we could take, but our opponent gets developed. We can take here. We can play queen up just to pressure the pawn. Queen up breaks the pin there. We can hit the bishop straight away. Take, take. Where's that bishop going to go? Actually, yeah, h6 I quite like just as a simple basic move. We've also got takes, takes, check. And you've just got to see that your queen or your bishop needs to drop to d2. How do I want to do this? h6. I mean, obviously I can just grab another pawn or I can take this one. It's probably easier just to take on d4 actually. Let's just take on d4. I can always get the queen out of the way. If you take here, I can just take back. Oh, it's taken that way. That I didn't expect. That's a bit too bold, I think. I'm going to take another pawn just so I can try and activate bishop or queen. Okay. So queen up is a nice move just to attack the bishop. You just need to see it, but should see it. You've just got the nice natural knight up in any event, but then we're threatening to take a pawn. So I'm going to play it. Okay, he's offering a draw. I don't want to draw. So the idea is we're just simply attacking the bishop. We're pinning the knight, so we're threatening to win this pawn as well. If takes, then I'm okay to take back. So I think I can just grab a pawn here. Now if he castles, we can then throw a check in. And there's smothered mate issues. But again, if we take, can he deflect my queen? That's something I need to look at actually. Here, take, rook across, we just take the knight. So I think I'm okay to take, but if I'm blundering, I'm blundering. It's chess, isn't it? You blunder all the time. But there's an immediate threat to capture the bishop or the knight. The knight can't take back because of this pin. But you do have deflector moves like this, so he has come forward. So why can't we just take the bishop? We've also got queen check as well. Now, you can do that. If we queen check, you could block with either piece, but we've still got an extra piece to come up. So check, but we lose the right to take the bishop. So it must be right to take, right? I think we just take the bishop, and then if you try and deflect us, we can take the knight with check. Okay, so we can take back. We could throw a check in first and try and deflect the king, but I don't think there's any need to. I think we just take. We just need to try and get castle now and not lose our piece. So maybe even the queen back somewhere, but the bishop can come up with check, but if we castle, our knight's loose. So it's still not a formality. So we're up a bishop and two pawns, but our king is not safe at all. I don't really want to castle on the queen's side. I mean, the rook could crash through, and it just feels very very risky, but we've got a potential development move for the bishop here. We just need to make sure we guard our knight castle, and then it feels like we're fine. Okay, so opponent goes for the checkmate threat, and also hits the pawn, so it's logical. I can check though now. Get castled. If you take my pawn, I'm fine, I think. So I think we throw a check in and we castle. We don't worry about this pawn. This way we're getting our king safe and we're keeping our knight. And then we just worry about what to do, and we'll be a piece and a pawn up. Or we should be anyway, as long as I'm not blundering. Like, knight in is a move, but my knight guards my bishop. Okay, it goes across, so I'm just going to castle here. So knight in is a move. I can drop the queen back, still guard, and my knight guards my bishop anyway. Queen takes pawn. Then I need another move. So what do we do? What do we do? Now maybe just move the knight across, but then knight in is a little bit more of a nuisance. So queen back might be a good move to guard the knight, because my bishop guards my queen, so I can shift the knight out the way. Knight up could be a move as well, actually, and it covers this, doesn't it? Yeah, I like the look of that. I like the look of knight up just to cover the knight jumping in. And it gets the knight out of the way of the attack. So we're a piece and a pawn up, a bishop and a pawn up. We can drop the bishop back, we can go forward. But still, safety first in mind is how I try to play the games. So at some point we can play knight forward, try and attack, but we want to try and coordinate our pieces first. Not easy to do. But see, I'm not a Sicilian player at all. I just play it now and again for a little bit of variety. Rook takes, and I can just take back with the queen. Okay, the queen's going back, logical. Now, we can shift the bishop forward and offer a queen trade, or we can move the queen out the way and try and still guard. Or maybe across. That's what I mean. You can't ever take these completely for granted, though. Bishop up looks sensible because we're offering a queen trade. So that's a move I like the look of. So I'm going to play that. Get the bishop out the firing line. Offer a queen trade in the process. I'll pre-move in case it takes. I don't think you will. And then hopefully we can start activating the rooks and getting a little bit more attacking, a bit more developed. But you can imagine if we lost this pawn, suddenly there's two white pawns can fly down the board. It's still not over till it's over. There is a nice potential threat though. Knight takes and knight up and knight takes, creating a mate threat. So he does actually trade. So now we should be fine. We should be. It doesn't mean we are, but we should be. We just need to be sensible. So I like knight right bang in the middle of the board. If knight across, we just come over. We can activate the rook as well. Actually, yeah, what's wrong with that? Oh, I like knight over right bang in the middle of the board. The knight's guarded and the bishop can drop back easily. If he takes, and I'm very happy to trade. It doesn't matter if rook comes down, I lose a pawn. I mean, I've got bishop f6, but the less pieces my opponent has got, then the easier it is to convert, and a little bit less risk to mess it up. So if rook comes forward, we just drop the bishop back and we offer a pawn for a pawn. The rook's gone there. Okay. I think bishop back's a sensible move anyway, but what's wrong with a move like rook across? So bishop back, I guess you can just move your rook over. Yeah, maybe you can actually. Let's push the pawn on it. It gives us an option to just clamp the bishop and the pawn right bang in the middle of the board. That should be very good actually, because he can never dislodge him without giving up the rook, or one of the rooks. Just leave them there now, and then just activate our rooks, push the pawn at the board. Make sure I give the king an emergency square just in case. So in fact, I'll do that immediately. Obviously, I'd be very happy if he traded a rook for bishop and pawn. Then we'd be a clean rook up. And then I'm going to try and push this pawn up and get our rooks into place somewhere, or they're not quite sure where yet. Rooks come forward. Okay. I think it's time to start activating our rooks now. So let's come in, threaten check, check. So the threat is to check here, then check here and collect 1 or 2 pawns. Okay, the king's come up, so I think we still go with that plan. We just throw a check in and we try and collect a pawn. Okay, so we collect the pawn. Opponent's best bet now is obviously to try and play for some sort of stalemate. But rook across is a very strong move here. Yeah, he's given that up there. So we'll just take now. There's not much white can do, to be fair, when you're in this type of position. You just got to try and position your king in a way where it gets boxed in. Then you never know, we might blunder a stalemate. He's offering a draw, we're not taking a draw. I meant to maybe resign, just click the wrong button, fair enough. I've done that before myself, because the buttons are literally right next to each other. So we'll just see how the engine says we actually played it. We had 29 moves. As I say, I'm not a Sicilian player. They're the move times that we've both played. So it'll be interesting to know if I've messed up in the opening, because it's just, in opening I play now and again for variety, but I don't know too much theory in any Sicilian opening. Okay, so clearly we're much better for that whole end of the game, but we already kind of knew that. I'd be surprised if it stays with really high precision like this, because like I say, I'm just going for a little bit of variety, but it was a comfortable game, to be fair. Sometimes the figures can be a bit misleading like that. If you're playing somebody where there's a rating gap and the high-rated player wins against the low-rated player, it can be a bit misleading. Yeah, 98% and 8 centre pawn loss, that's about as good as it gets for me. See, my opponent, 90% and 28 centre pawn loss. When you're playing someone 600 points higher rated, that's a really good performance. It doesn't matter what rating level you play at, that's a good effort by my opponent. There's no bad blunders from either player have been flagged there. So that's a really good effort, but that's about as good as it gets for me. I'm surprised it's that good for a Sicilian, because I just don't play the Sicilian. Well, I do play it, but just for occasional variety. But I'm just looking for common sense moves. Like, we developed the knight here. Was it the right knight? I've got it set to a depth of 3 there. If you click this little icon for the engine settings, you can change it between 1 to 5 lines, and you can change the amount of memory that you allocate. Obviously, the more you allocate, the more resources it takes up on your computer and your internet and so on. So the engine actually says, yeah, knight to f6 that I played is not one of the top 3 moves. d5, knight c6, and bishop to e7. So it's not one of the top moves there. And knight c6 is the more logical move, just to stop the pawn push when you develop like I did. So e5 is probably the right reply, and it was indeed, but it's still essentially level. f3 is a mistake there. It's a very bold attacking setup. And we've just gone for logical development moves here. So in this position, it was correct to take the d pawn. So the engine is looking at the queen being developed. So I took the pawn first, but that's actually not one of the top moves. Developing the queen, like I said, to attack the bishop. Then you just need to see that the bishop's under attack and guarded. But I took first, but I was aware of the concept, then played it. Knight came up to guard, allowed us to grab another pawn. Yeah, queen c5 is one of them options. I was actually looking at queen b6, but c5 is the option. Then if you can't block the king moves, you've got a check threat and you have to give up the rook for knight. So I was considering that. But I saw the chance just to simply win the piece. So, you know, simple chess is what I like to play if I can do. Simple, good principled chess. So in this position, I castled. I was aware I was going to be giving up a pawn here. So castling, it is actually coming up as a good move here. So I was just giving up a pawn, but just thinking of king safety first. Knight up to stop that knight jump. Then we offer the queen trade. Then in this position, I've just clamped the pawn in the middle, and my opponent hasn't seen anything better to do than give up the rook to get rid of the bishop and the pawn. But of course, at this point, we're now a clean rook up. So that's a decent effort, though, and good effort by both of us there. So that's an interesting game. Very good.